This is Software Meets Business, a podcast sponsored by Head Channel.
So welcome to another episode of Software Meets Business. And with me today, I'm incredibly excited to have Berco Beute, who is the CEO and founder of Stekz. Welcome, Berco.
Yeah, welcome. Thanks for having me.
So I suppose to get started, I'd like to just get a little bit of background about how you ended up in your role today. So what was the journey?
Actually, I studied at the university in Nijmegen in the Netherlands. I studied communication science. It was the beginning of the 90s, and I was interested in new media, basically. So the studies are like sociological study about the effects of mass media on the audience. So they research into what's the effect of media of television, radio, etc. My interest was in new media. And when the new media that came up in those years was, of course, electronic networks. So like the internet was like the first, signs of the internet were coming along. So I spent my time investigating this new medium. It's called the internet. How is that compared to like radio and television, and what will be the effects of that? After that, I finished my studies, and I thought, I'm actually lacking in technological background to really assess, to really see what's the value of this new medium, because I had some hunch about how it would work and what the limitations would be, but I just lacked the technical skills. So I switched after my master's. I switched to a technical study, which was artificial intelligence. First years here in a town called Groningen, where I live now in the Netherlands. So it was just started there. So it was the first or the second year that the study was here, AI. And I had to explain 25 years long. I had to explain people what AI was. And the last 5 years are going to explain me constantly. So that was just strange. So then I went into AI, and it was a really technical study. So that was awesome. So I finished that master as well. And after that, I did my PhD in Copenhagen in Denmark at the technical university over there into distributed multimedia. And after that, I'm always interested in the cutting edge of IT, of software. And after that, I went to work for research institutes. I had startups, but always on the cutting edge. So before there were smartphones, for instance, I had long research history and what are the options of smart devices? What if you connect them together? How do we operate together, both on the technical level, but also on a more operational and functional level? And from there on, I just went into these different areas for actually IT, basically. That's where I've always been. And now a couple of years ago, I started Stekz because one of I had said hobby horses has been that I've always been warning for the fact that that bad software will lead to increasingly bad consequences in the long run. Well, 20 years ago, there was a message that nobody wanted to hear, but I said, well, imagine your traffic lights or your police stations or your house or being controlled, being digitally connected to the rest of the world, and the software is not working properly. The consequence of bad software will increasingly be bad. So there's two things you can then do. You can either spend time on fighting the symptoms, or you can rethink the way you are building software. And that's actually always been a topic for me, of course. And over like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I was starting to think that AI could play a role in, because one of the big problems, of course, in software is there's a huge gap between the one that has the intent, that wants something, and the people that can build the systems that fulfill that wish, right? So it's the classical moat between the business and the technology, of course, but that's in all aspects. Some people want something, they need like a digital artifact for them, but they have to translate it to developers, and developers have to interpret that what they want, and then have to build it. And that gap between these two worlds has been like a huge problem. But with my background in AI, I started to realize that, hey, like 15 years ago, something like that, I was doing a lot of analyzing for, etc., to get sentiment analysis, and using AI for doing sentiment analysis. And sentiment analysis, like AI was increasingly good at getting the sentiment out of text, right? So that's one part of the picture. Now, about 10 years ago or something, it also dawned on me that AI was increasingly better on generating stuff. So the whole Gen AI thing slowly came into being, starting with simple pictures and a simple sound, but that became increasingly more sophisticated. So then I realized that AI was becoming this compiler. On the one hand, it could interpret what's the intent, right? Extract the intent from text, for instance. On the other hand, it could generate something. So then it becomes compiled. It can interpret and generate. That's what a compiler basically does. Although in a compiler is really strict, and this kind is more like a fake boundary kind of idea, but it still can help. It can still be useful.
Yeah.
Long story short, that's when I started thinking, well, if AI becomes the compiler, that can bring business and technology close together, because then the expression in natural language, for instance, can already be something that results in like an information system, basically. But then I thought, well, there's no platform that really brings everybody onto the table, onto the same table to work in this way, right? It's either you have GitHub and GitLab and all these tools. They are useful the moment you have source code.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about our profession, which is building information systems, that starts way before that. It starts the moment you ask for instance, like a business owner, what are your ambitions? What are you trying to realize, and how are you doing that? And how can we automate this? How can we capture that and support that in an information system? So it was now a general platform to go all the way from the business to code in one environment. That's why we started Stekz. So I want to build this platform. I'm not aiming to get venture capital in. I could become a professor and do it like in university. I've done that. I'm not sure if that's the proper way to build something like that. I've also thought about venture capital, done that before as well.
Mm-hmm.
But my hobby, you have to explain constantly where your money is going, and it's a real commercial drive. So that's why I started Stekz as the company saying, okay, I want to build it, but I want to earn the money ourselves and then invest it in building this platform. And while running our projects, we learn about, okay, what are the requirements? How should we do it, etc.
Okay. So being in business and then having software drive that business, you said there's a massive gap. So how have you managed to fill or navigate through that gap of the business wanting something and the developers seeing it through their particular lens and the two not joining up?
Yeah, it's always been, as I said, it's always been this huge gap. It's always been the mode. It's always been the only thing you can do is just like constantly communicating. But then the problem is these both worlds speak different languages,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's a constant struggle. It has been a constant struggle in any project that you're doing, that these things constantly come back. Oh, I misunderstood. Oh, why? Like for instance, like a developer would always say, yeah, but the technical solution, we should do it this way. Spend some extra time, get rid of the technical debt, and spend a week on removing technical debt. Well, the business, I don't care. I just want to have my solution right now, right here, right? They just don't have the same ambition. They don't speak the same language. And so it's constantly, there's a lot of communication back and forth, like trying to reach some common ground that, of course, balances between the technical requirements and the business requirements. And there's always a tension between these two. And the only way you can take it away is be in constant conversation between these. And that's my idea. That can be a lot. You can really be supported in that conversation by using tools like AI. I'm not saying that AI is a golden tool for everything, but it can support you in some of these aspects.
So as a business owner looking to have build the platform out, what kind of approaches do you take to that? How do you want the developers to work and communicate to enable you to deliver the platform that you have a vision for?
Yeah, what I do is also eating our own dog food. So step one is to get everybody at the same table. So you're talking about the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So what our platform really does, it starts from the business aspect. So you talk about the ambitions of and the goals, but also about the processes, and you describe the domains. Like in domain-driven design, you talk about the domains, you talk about the products, you talk about the processes. We also talk about the UIs that are for specific tasks in those processes. And so both the business and the technology is all looking at the same thing. So we're forcing here internally as well. Okay, every conversation starts with this aspect. You start in the same environment. You can see the processes, you can see the domains, you can see the concepts that are relevant, like the key data elements. You can see the code, you can see, and the important thing that we're all looking at the same thing. But you're all looking at the same information system, basically. Like you're all looking at the same digital artifact that you're building. That really helps with the discussion and also conceptually for everybody constantly know where they are. Because what I always say is that context is king. Well, without context, nothing has meaning. So it makes a lot of sense to put things in context. So if you have using some standard some standard tool like Camunda or any other BPMN file. That's nice to work out your process, but the process is always part of a larger thing. It also has to talk to other processes. It is part of some domain. It is part of certain organization. There's some data elements being needed. There's systems that automate it partly. So the context is really important. So the more context you can give for a task or for whatever you want to do, the better the more understandable it is. So that's what we're enforcing here. That's our mission. That's our goal. That's our vision. That's the way to work. It'll make your life as a developer easier, but it will also make your life as a business owner, because you get more overview and insights of what's happening in your organization. What are we working on? Who am I? What are we doing? How are we doing it? But also, hey, what's being automated and how are we doing it? Which systems are there? And where is which data element used, etc.
Yeah. So the message is to business owners who are looking to build something like a platform. They've got to start up, set the context for the whole team, and that's one of the grounding principles that you have.
Yeah, we call it business first, basically. So there's an entrepreneur that wants to reach something. That has a goal in mind, right? And it can be anything. It can be, okay, I have this idea of a startup, and I just need everything still, right? You just build stuff from the ground on up, and then you say, okay, we have to construct your whole digital backbone of your organization. I'm going to do it for your business. I'm going to do that. But sometimes they're like big organizations where we already have many systems, a lot of data and processes and employees and etc. But there's this process that is very full, that often breaks, that takes a lot of time, that's a lot of money, which is really risky. I don't know, can be any reason. Let's say I want to get rid of that, I want to improve on that, and then you just take one part of an organization that you're going to improve.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still very useful to sketch the environment, sketch the context in which this is happening.
Yeah.
Okay. That's basically the starting point.
Yeah. And so then once you set the context, you obviously need the people to come in and do the work. So how do you go about finding them?
Employees, actually, I think, and looking at the past, I would say, so I look at the past 20 years or maybe 25 years, it has become increasingly hard to find good developers, right? And
Employees, or do you sometimes go and outsource to a company who has a team that you can just hire?
No, we don't. We hire our own employees. We do have a team remotely, but they are our team.
Mm-hmm.
So they're really members of our business.
Is there a reason? Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, the reason being that we are ourselves, of course, and very experienced software developers, and we know how to develop good software. So we want to stay in control of the software that we're building. So we are running our own projects, our own teams. Some employees can be all over the world. It doesn't really matter. They're still part of this team.
Yeah. So they have a direct relationship with you, basically.
Exactly.
Not through a third party.
Exactly, third party add-on. Yeah, because what happens mostly is these remote teams are sometimes used by companies that want to outsource everything, right? If they just want to say, I want this product, you make sure that I get this product in time, right? And for the right price. That's not what we're saying. Okay, we're such a team ourselves. So we're helping our customers building the right software with the right team. So we're constructing the teams ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the team can be all over the world, but we're not outsourcing complete product development to somewhere else.
So how do you go about finding the right people for your team?
Let me just interrupt this podcast for a few seconds. I just wanted to let you know about our wonderful sponsor, Head Channel. Head Channel builds software engineering teams, and they've been building software for clients since 2003. They have a very simple engagement model. Either they develop and run it, or they build it and you run it. They can also help with finding a fractional CTO if you need that support. You can find them at headchannel.co.uk. And now back to the podcast.
So I think I said the last 25 years, it has become increasingly hard because there's a lot of demand for, of course, good developers, experienced developers. But very recently, it's gotten a little better. But I think the best thing is creating a good employer brand. And in my case, I think our company, it's still pretty young. It's 4 years old, but I've been in this business like for 30 years, and many people know me by now. So they either come to me or they know the company. But I think the key in this is also the two conferences that we're organizing. So every year in the town of Groningen, we're organizing Python, and Python is Python, which is of course the programming language conference, which is technical, open source, non-commercial conference that I started. And recently we also started a variation on that, which is called Eigren, which is the AI version. Like so every half year we have a conference, and about 400 developers join these conferences. These are also the type of employees we're looking for. So they have a great day. It's non-commercial, so it's pretty cheap. So they all come over, have a great day. They see our brand, of course, and they say they see me, and they think, oh, that might be an interesting company. And over the years, this conference has grown. So it started off. I initially started Python because I was part of a startup. I had a startup with a couple of guys, and we didn't have any money. So, but we had a couple of employees, and the employees started asking, well, can I go to a conference? And I'd like to go to an Amazon conference in Las Vegas. And I'm like, well, that's pretty expensive. We don't have any money. So the trick, I said, well, why don't I get the experts over here and just have like a master class and like mini conference like in our office. So that's what I did. So we got a couple of experts, and we're doing it in Python in the early days. So it was 2007 or 2008. There were not many companies doing huge things in Python. So it's quite a gamble to build a company in Python. And there weren't many Python developers either. So that's like, how do you get then the right Python developer? So I imagine, okay, I get experts over. I have a great day about my team because they have the experts there and they don't have to go to these expensive conferences. And maybe I can attract some external people to also join the conference so that we get a little employer branding going on. That was like 15 years ago. That has grown from a very small, like initial, and it works like a family. It's like, and now 15 years later, I mean, many of the key players in all the Python world have been at our conference and have spoken there, and everybody that's been there is coming back the next year, basically, because it's so much fun for them. It feels like a family, but as an employer, that really helped us. People know, or everybody that we speak know us from these conferences. So they know, hey, these guys have been doing this Prodeo for nothing for all these years. They do cool stuff. They have nice ideas. They have great employees because our employees are speaking in those conferences as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we get great feedback from that. I think the best source of resource for us has been the best resource for us for new employees.
Okay. But I mean, when someone comes over to talk to you and says, hey, Berco, I'd love to come and work for you, do you just accept anyone, or do you look for specific things?
No, we're always looking for specific qualities, of course. Depends what we're looking. Sometimes we're looking for people because in our case we're technology agnostic, so it depends on who the customer is and what they want and the current situation, which language, which library, which frameworks, which kind of architecture we're using. So, and we're trying to find the right employees that fit these projects, right? So sometimes we're looking for Python experts, and might be the backend people, or sometimes we're looking for front end that have done a lot of React or Vue or Angular or whatever it is that we're using for these projects, or maybe HTMX, or maybe Go, or maybe Java or C#. So I'm constantly looking at what is that we need for our projects, and I'm going down, okay, is there anything in our network, somebody that does that, and they either come to us or I just give them a ping and then, hey, I know you, blah, yeah, I'm open for, and then the conversation starts. But yeah, I'm certainly not hiring anybody. Also, because in our case, they have to be pretty experienced as well, because most of the systems we're building are pretty large platforms. Yeah, you need some experience in these things to build good software. To say, I mean, it's not something that you learn in university or high school. You have to have have been in the fields for a couple of years to understand big architectures, high loads. What are the discussions? What are the wise choices? How do you build that? And what should and shouldn't you do?
Yeah.
So yeah, experience is truly important for us. Yeah.
Okay. Do you put them through any kind of tests? I mean, one thing that I've had feedback on from a bunch of different people is that if you do remote tests with candidates, it's getting more and more the situation where they seem to be having an assistant with them.
Yeah. That's the reason I don't do this test live. But what I always said, you show me your open source work, show me your code, run me through your code, explain the ideas that you had, what are you trying to solve, what are your architectural visions. That's what I always do. If they can show me like a great open source work, that's always perfect. If they can run me through a recent project that they've been doing and explain it properly and in detail what they've been doing, the choice they have made, etc. That gives me a very good picture of their qualities. I need it because indeed I agree. If you give like an assignment, I mean Yeah, it's not like unusable because anybody can do any assignment nowadays with an AI assistant in the background. Yeah, doesn't really say much anymore.
No.
So, but if you just have a conversation, and that's also nice because you want to talk to people how communicative they are, and are they good, and do they get their hints, and how social are they? These are also very important. Can they explain what they've been doing, and are they open enough to explain? Okay, this is like a stupid mistake I've made, but hey, I've done it. I should have done it this way. And those are good signs, right? If they can just talk about it and explain it in simple words and be open about it, that's a good indicator, I'd say.
Yeah, I suppose that's that old thing of an expert knows when they've done something wrong and knows what to do to correct it next time.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, it's of course what with juniors a lot of times they just straight out of university and they were the best students. Oh, I've been the best students in university, and hey, and I'm in this new company and we're going to do everything different because hey, I'm the best programmer. And then they run into this world and realize they don't realize yet that they don't know so much, right? And they've explained that okay, slow down, slow down. They've all been in university here. But they also worked for 20 years in the industry. So sit down, relax, and learn.
Yeah. Are there any sort of immediate things that really put you off when you're talking?
That right? Sorry, that.
Are there any things in an interview situation when you're trying to find developers that really put you off?
Yeah, as I said, it really put me off is the Mr. Know-it-all attitude because that you get the king of the hill at risk. That sometimes if it's okay that you're confident, that's one thing. But if you're not humble enough to realize that the way you're standing, then that'll be problematic in the long run.
Mm.
I've seen it too many times indeed. And sometimes, I mean, our job is building information systems. Our job is not cranking out as much code as you can in as little time as possible. It truly is building information, which means that you have to talk to people, you have to analyze things, you have to come to an agreement, and you have to work with other people.
Hmm.
Nobody knows everything, and nobody's better than the other. We're all good at different things. But I've seen too many cases in which, well, let's say a star programmer knew so much about a certain piece of the system that they became some kind of king of the hill and were no longer able to cooperate with others, and like they become actually becoming a risk for the business, for the company. So that's really something that puts me out. If I smelled that basically in an interview, I'm not sure. So a little humbleness, I would say.
Okay. And so obviously coming off of your conferences that you've set up, I mean, how so you've got two conferences now,
Yeah,
Pygron and AIgron.
yeah.
I haven't pronounced that correctly, but
Yeah, it is Pygron actually, which in Dutch you say Eigren. So you can also say Pygron and I. This it rhymes a little bit.
okay.
And also that the fella literally
Oh
here,
yeah.
it has an eye. That's one of the mascots.
And they're annual, are they? Every year?
Yeah. So the Pygron is every year in May and Eigren is in November. Yeah, the reason I'm doing so it's like a cadence. So is it a cadence? So
Yeah.
I'm almost constantly looking for sponsors, looking for speakers, and selling tickets and stuff. It's a lot of work though. The thing we get back is indeed employee branding, but it also takes a lot of work just organize because it's non-commercial. We don't have like a company that organizes this for us. It's all done by ourselves. Basically, two people to do it, but I still think it's also fun. And so there's a couple of things. It's fun. It's also good for our employee branding, but it's also, and that's the real reason, we're also giving back to the community. Because if you're really honest, I mean, most companies wouldn't exist if there wasn't open source, right?
Yeah.
And that's the same goes same goes for our company. If there wasn't any open source in the world, then our company wouldn't exist. Stekz would be non-existent. So I also think it's our volunteer work is actually organizing this and giving back to the community. This is what we do. So we give like 400 people of our 800,000 people a year, like an awesome day for very little money, and that's our gift back to the community.
Yeah. So you just run it at cost, basically.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Yeah. Try not to make too much money.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's always balances out because in the end we drink beers and eat snacks and we go out for food and then all the money is gone. So yeah, it balances out every time. So it's really fun.
Yeah. Well, look, we talked about the idea of businesses, if they're building a team and they want to hire people, you have some
Yeah.
good tips for how they should do that. But let's talk about the other side and clients.
Yeah.
So is there any kind of experiences that you've had about So people are coming to you maybe to build some software. What are the best kind of clients and what are the worst kind of clients?
Let's start with, the worst kind of clients are clients that treat you like a supplier instead of a partner,
Hmm.
let's say. Because software is not like, we don't sell shrink wrapped products, right? It's not like, okay, this is the t-shirt and it's red and I got the logo on it. There you go. And it's $2. We're just selling like, the software is complex, but also the problem is always complex and has fake boundaries. And the solution is complex, has fake boundaries as well. So there's no way you can precisely say, this is what you'll get. It's going to take this long, and it'll cost that. So you have to have some kind of agreement that you're on this journey together, right? Okay, the end goal is pretty clear. You want to be a company that does more that can do more with less, basically. Right? So that is more efficient, can do new things, has less risks, makes less mistakes, etc. That's the goal you have, because that's the business goal you've set. And that's what you're aiming for, and that's where you're getting. But the road will never be a straight line. You will always go more left and more right and more left and more right. So and you'll only get it. You can say, if you're being treated as a supplier, they go like, oh, where did you spend this hour and where did you spend that hour? And then you get like, you being penny-wise pound foolish in the end. But that's that. And you constantly, I don't know. You sometimes, as you undoubtedly know, sometimes like missing a comma somewhere could take you a day, right? And then, but that's the nature of our profession. Sometimes it's seemingly simple stuff from the outside can be extremely hard on the inside. And if you have to explain that to the people that are not professionals in the software industry, they just look at you blankly. Well, how can that be, right? And that's, I'm not going to pay for the comma, right? That's so. If there's more like a supplier relation than there is a partnership relation, that's another that's not a healthy situation to be in, I would say. So there has to be a level of trust. Okay, we're in this together. We're heading there. We're getting there. And yes, it might be more left, more right. That's okay. That's not a problem. That's how it goes in these things. We're having the same goal. I think the real thing you want to, what I always stress is, what you want with your customers, you both have a real clear end goal that is aligned. So we as a company, our goal is not to make as many hours as possible on a project. Our goal is to build a solution as fast and as efficiently as possible, because that shows that our approach, that our way of working and our professionalism is really state of the art. And if we spend too many hours on a project, that's also shines back. I mean, it puts us in a bag. And the goal, of course, of our customers is also being automated and being efficient and digitally smart as fast as possible as well. So both goals are aligned. And if both goals are aligned, you can have some trust. And if there's trust, you can say, okay, this is where we're heading. We're both heading in the right direction. There's trust. I'll leave you guys up to make the right decision, to do the right thing, not screw up, etc. And that's what you in the end want, because else it'll be pretty hard to work together.
Yeah, absolutely. Some really good insights there. Okay, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. I've really appreciated everything you said. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Software Meets Business, the podcast sponsored by Head Channel. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your preferred platform.